Chad Mitchell Fitz, 34 years old, from Evansdale, Iowa, was a registered sex offender who, when he was 17 years old, kidnapped and had sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl. In October 2005, Chad Fitz was charged with 2 counts of lascivious acts with child solicitation. He had kidnapped a 13-year-old girl and held her captive for 2 hours. Chad Mitchell Fitz pled guilty to the charges, and the 2 counts of lascivious acts with child solicitation were classed as Class D felonies under Iowa law, which could have put him in prison for 5 years. He was given a special sentence specific to Iowa law code relating to a Class D felony and a $750 fine. It's unclear how long or if he served any time at all, even just weeks in prison for his 2 charges. He was convicted on August 7, 2006 and put on the Iowa Sex Offenders Registry. In July 2006, he was charged with possession of a controlled substance, marijuana, and the charge was later dismissed in court on March 20, 2007. Chad Fitz subsequently had to abide by the rules of his special sentence, and his employment outlook was hampered due to exclusions in accordance to him going on the sex offenders registry. It has been speculated online in the past that maybe Chad Mitchell Fitz could possibly be connected to the abduction and to the murders of Elizabeth Collins and Lyric Cook Morrissey, which occurred in Iowa in the year 2012.
It's the mystery that's turning the tiny town of Evansdale, Iowa, upside down.
The more time and things that go by, the more thoughts that go through your head, and the worse the pit in your stomach gets.
8-year-old Elizabeth Collins and her 10-year-old cousin Lyric Cook vanished after leaving for a bike ride Friday, seemingly without a trace. The only clue, their 2 bicycles found at the edge of this local lake. That was 5 days ago, and so far, no break in the case.
Well, here we go. Hopefully we'll find something.
Today, even the mayor, Chad Deutsch, flew his own twin-engine plane over the search area in hopes of spotting any evidence that could help investigators.
Here, what are you looking for with your eyes?
Just anything out of place, any, colors, maybe there would be some clothing or something like that.
On the ground, 6 long days of frantic searching by hundreds of volunteers and police investigations have turned up nothing. And Misty Morrissey, mother of 10-year-old Lyric Cook, is losing patience.
We are still stuck with a lack of evidence and no girls, and who wants to go weeks, not knowing where their children are.
The first week is extremely important. Beyond the first super critical 24 hours, every day counts.
And so here, there's a sense that investigators are truly working against the clock. The family says the girl's grandmother was sitting for them last Friday when, shortly after 12 noon, they went on a bike ride around the neighborhood.
They asked me to go for a short bike ride, and they just never came back.
Investigators know that so much depends on what happens in the first hours and days after a child goes missing. Within 3 hours after the girls initially left the house, family members became worried.
I just had a gut feeling. My daughter would not leave that long.
At that point, Heather Collins, one of their mothers, drove to the police station and reported the girls missing. Within 4 hours, authorities had found the girls' bikes on a trail behind the lake about a mile from their home. Near the bikes, little Elizabeth's purse with her cell phone, which she used to play games but wasn't equipped to make calls. On Saturday, with the girls gone 24 hours, about 1,000 community volunteers searched a 12-square-mile area surrounding the tiny town.
I won't lose hope.
Can't lose hope.
At this point, authorities dredged the lake for any evidence, but by Sunday, with the girls missing for 2 full days, police have still failed to turn up any additional clues.
Every hour, it makes it that much worse.
And the family cannot believe the girls would have gone willingly with an abductor.
I, myself, have taught her, if a stranger approaches you, number one, you just don't even talk to them. Walk the other direction.
I don't care about what happens to him. I just care about what happens to my kids. I just want them. I just want my kids back to my kids.
The reality is missing child cases in small towns like this, abduction by strangers, is rare.
There's around 100 of them a year in the United States. You're really only talking about a handful that are abducted by strangers. The rest are abducted by people they have some relationship with.
Come Monday, Elizabeth's mother is begging for help.
We just ask that they just continue to keep looking, not to give up. We will find these girls. These girls will be found. I just know in my heart.
Finally, on Tuesday, the authorities begin draining the man-made lake near the trail where the girls' bikes were found after FBI search dogs hit on a scent of the girls. That same day, the smallest break. Word from one neighbor who saw the girls that fateful afternoon.
They just come riding by on their bikes and said hi, and that's the last thing that, heard from them.
Police are working with the FBI, and the girls' parents are reportedly cooperating fully.
We've done extensive interviews, hours at a time. We've done polygraphs.
This morning, when we spoke with her, Lyric's mom, Misty Morrissey, told us she's trying to remain hopeful.
We feel that the more time that passes, the greater chances that they are not alive.
With the girls now 6 days missing, the community is on edge. But without any answers, the desperation only grows. For Nightline, I'm Alex Perez in Evansdale, Iowa.
On Friday, July 13, 2012, cousins Elizabeth Collins and Lyric Cook Morrissey were seen by their grandmother at 12:15 p.m. on Brovan Boulevard in Evansdale, and then seen 8 minutes later at 12:23 p.m. traveling west on Brovan Boulevard on CCTV footage. They were witnessed sometime between 12:30 and 1 p.m. riding their bikes on Gilbert Drive not far from Myers Lake, a popular fishing and recreation area. The police, the families, friends and volunteers searched for 5 months until the girls' remains were eventually found on December 5, 2012 in the Seven Bridges Wildlife Park in Reedland, Iowa, approximately 20 miles from where they were last seen alive.
New information in that murder case of two Evansdale cousins. Authorities say the killer is probably someone who is local and very familiar with the area. KCCI's Laura Nichols explains the new details.
Lyric Cook Morrissey and Elizabeth Collins went missing 2.5 years ago, but authorities are just revealing this new update now after talking with national experts. December 5th, 2012, authorities find the bodies of 10-year-old Lyric Cook Morrissey and 8-year-old Elizabeth Collins inside the Seven Bridges Wildlife Area, a remote woodland in Bremer County. Fast forward 2.5 years later, authorities say this area and the people who know it are a critical piece of the puzzle.
We have no doubt that the person or persons responsible for this crime are familiar and very comfortable with the Seven Bridges area.
Local authorities held a press conference Tuesday, making this plea to the public.
We want to know about anyone who is familiar with the Seven Bridges area.
This renewed focus on Seven Bridges comes after authorities met with national experts in Virginia last week to discuss the case.
Remember why we're doing this. We have 2 little girls here that'll never see another Christmas.
Heather Collins says it's scary to think someone in her community could be the one who killed her daughter and niece.
If your mind is wondering and you're like, oh gosh, that could be our person, that could be our guy.
Police say they followed up on hundreds of investigative leads, but they believe it's the public who will ultimately solve this case.
We are really just hoping and praying that if anybody saw anything that day near that area, near the Seven Bridges, that they will come forward.
Now, authorities wouldn't reveal a lot of details in today's press conference, like if there are any suspects, but they say the investigation is very much open and active, and there is still a $150,000 reward. Live in the studio, Laura Nichols, KCCI 8 News, Iowa's news leader.
The Evansdale police and the former police chief, Kent Smock, believed the Seven Bridges location where the girls' remains were found is the key, and the killer or killers would have good knowledge of the area. Chad Fitz and his father lived in a home in Reedland, Iowa, just 4 minutes and 1.6 miles by vehicle and just 31 minutes away on foot from the Seven Bridges area where the girls were found. Chad Fitz also had lived on Gilbert Drive in Evansdale, Iowa, where the girls were seen on their bikes. In 2020, someone made a post who had been talking to a local and mentioned Chad Fitz's sexual deviant criminal background and how he lived in both locations where the girls were abducted in Evansdale and where their bodies were found in Reedland. They also mentioned a vehicle he may have drove and that he had taken a car to the crushers and someone claimed had a rotten odor coming from it. Chad Fitz was supposedly cleared of any connection to the Evansdale murders. On Monday, April 20, 2020, 34-year-old Chad Mitchell Fitz passed away from respiratory failure stemming from an influenza A infection at 6:41 a.m. at the University of Iowa Hospital in Iowa City.